Hi everyone, here's what's bothering me today. Not enough of us know about Rosemary Brown, who was the first black woman to ever run for a provincial legislature and also the first woman to seek the leadership of a federal political party. Now, Rosemary Brown was born in Jamaica to a politically minded family, so she was always very invested in politics from an early age. She immigrated to Canada in 1951 to study social work at McGill and the University of British Columbia, where she got her master's of social work. But as a young student, and of course as a black woman, she encountered a lot of sexism and racism firsthand while applying for housing or for summer jobs, or even just trying to fit into, student life on campus. And again, being already politically motivated, this is kind of this is the spark that lights the fire within her. So following her graduation, Rosemary Brown becomes involved with two social groups that would really shape her political mindset. These two groups were the British Columbia Association for the Advancement of Colored Women and the Voice of Women. She also briefly worked with Children's Aid Society and as a counselor at Simon Fraser University, but those were very brief things. She was, however, a fairly regular panelist on the national television series People in Conflict. So the 1960s roll around and she finds herself seeing the civil rights struggle in the United States and also in Canada and probably elsewhere around the world. And so she begins to become an advocate against both racism and sexism, which as a black woman, she acutely faced both. At the time, traditional roles of race and gender were being challenged in Canadian politics, and this was being challenged most by the NDP, but we'll get to that in a second. So while she was fighting for women's rights and also the rights for minorities in general, especially black people, she begins to attract the attention of the NDP. And so in 1972, she actually entered provincial politics as a New Democratic Party candidate. Some of the activism she was doing at this time was with the Vancouver Status of Women Council, and it was a member, I think, of that group that actually encouraged her to run for politics. And it turns out she was successful. On the 30th of August, she won her seat in the riding of Vancouver-Burrard, and she became the first black woman to sit in the Legislative Assembly of British Columbia. And she would be a member of the Legislative Assembly for 14 years. So let's talk about some of her accomplishments, shall we? During her more than decade-long political career, she created a committee to remove sexism in British Columbia's educational material. She played an important role in forming the Burger Commission on the Family. In 1975, she actually ran for the leadership of the federal NDP with the slogan, "Brown is Beautiful." And she broke color barriers in the federal arena when she ran a close second to Ed Broadbent, who ultimately won the nomination for the federal party leadership. So on the one hand, okay, I guess we weren't ready for a black leader at that point in time, but she came close in a very turbulent time. I mean, even then, until, the 70s and the 80s, we weren't getting our first black politicians and senators and lieutenant governors and things like that. So this is still pretty impressive. But in any case, she retires from politics in 1988, and this is where she turns her attention to international advocacy. After politics, she is serving as the CEO of Match, International Women's Fund, which was an advocacy group for women. And she also began traveling more and being an advocate and trying to gain support for overseas projects for the advancement of women around the world, from like Latin America to Africa to Asia. And she was very passionate about promoting the social, political, and economic advancement of women so that they were not being left behind as a political and social class by other governments around the world. In 1993, she was actually named Chief Commissioner of the Ontario Human Rights Commission, which was a position that she held until 1996, while also continuing her work with Match. And so because of all the work that she had done and all the advocacy she had been doing and fighting for over the decades, she began to get like an astonishing number of doctors. She has like 15 honorary doctorates. She got the Order of British Columbia. She also got the Order of Canada. And I think in 1973, she even got the United Nations Human Rights Fellowship. So her life, oh, and of course, like in Canada, you know, she has a stamp that was commemorated in her honor now. So she has been a pretty significant voice and advocate for women throughout the years. And, you know, she ultimately passed away on the 26th of April, 2003. And she has since left this very impressive resume and legacy. I'm pretty sure she was one of the candidates for when they were saying they were going to design a new $10 bill and put a famous Black Canadian woman on it. I'm pretty sure she, along with Viola Desmond and Carrie Best, and I think a few others like Marianne Shadd, were there as candidates. And again, I have no complaints with Viola Desmond being chosen. I think it's great. But at the same time, I know that not a lot of us really know about or remember Rosemary Brown, which is a shame. She came this close to leading the federal NDP in a time of great social change and upheaval in Canada and the United States. She also was a passionate advocate for Black people and for women, not just here, but around the world. She should absolutely be someone who's a greater figure in our national collective consciousness, especially considering these are things we claim to care about in Canada. We love talking about peacekeeping and advocating for human rights. And here we have a clear instance of a genuine hero and advocate who we can look up to and respect and honor. And the fact that more of us don't know about her or celebrate her legacy is definitely what's bothering me today.